Good afternoon from the International Diplomatic Institute, l'Istituto Diplomatico Internazionale. We are gathered here for the forum WDM 2022, Women in Diplomatic Mediation, for sharing the conclusion and the recommendation of the conference held in Rome in 19 and 20 October 2022, organized by the Institute with the support and contribution of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of the Italian Republic. I am here with Professor Curti Gialdino, the Vice President of the International Diplomatic Institute, Roberta Lucchini, the Delegate of the International Diplomatic Institute. The other guests are arriving because there has been a queue with the badges to enter the UNOC building, but we are welcoming all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, authorities who are connected with us. Now I would like to give the floor to the President Paolo Giordani in order that he addresses his speech.
Your Excellency, dear ladies and gentlemen, friends of the Institute, allow me to address a respectful and warm greeting to all the speakers, joining a dutiful and sincere sentiment of respectful gratitude to the authority of the United Nations in Ginevra hosting us. I shall admit that the emotion that accompanies me in this moment is strong. In fact, it's the first time that the Istituto Diplomatico Internazionale, which I have the honor to preside, is in this place that I am not mistaken to define a secret for our institute and for our belonging to the great family of the organization accredited with special consultative status to the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations, with the happy opportunity to present is our activity and some future development of it, which I hope will be appreciated. The setting in which today event, as a management is celebrated, is also prestigious for many noble reasons. It is the common house of human rights. It is the house where every human being is welcome, protected, promoted. It is finally the house where humanity must be able to rediscover its primary and essential meaning, being conscious, friends, to give shape to the best efforts in order to really build the best possible world. To those who follow use remotely or in streaming, those we want on Institute for their clearances, please accept a special thank you. Another reason worthy of note for the theme of our meeting is today, 8 March, International Women's Day. Therefore, in addition to offering the most sincere homage to the kind lady present here today and to all the women of the world, what is present here today is enhanced by the memory of all the situations in which, unfortunately, women's rights are still violated and worse, still not recognized. I do not want to dwell on it, also because the text that is present is certainly more detailed and executive on the motivation that led the Istituto Diplomatico Internazionale to celebrate and condense in a dedicated multilateral conference the ability of women to mediate wisely and diplomatically in conflict situations. In this regard, I cannot avoid to go back with my ear to my address to the participants of our conference of October last year, when I affirmed that The role of women in the diplomatic mediation of conflicts is not a mediation tout court, but a mediation that explicitly qualifies as diplomatic. The exercise of the diplomatic arts, that noble human activity that, wisely and tenaciously, is able to compose the opposite, that is true that they attract, but for the clash, not for the encounter. In reference to women, therefore, it is precisely the history of humanity that makes us grasp their peculiar attitude. To now have to meditate in conflict situation with wise and patient expectation, sudden keenness, firmness or of decision and expected energy. L'Istituto Diplomatico Internazionale, with the conference of October 2022 and the other activity planned, would like to underline the importance of the activity of both the United Nations and the Italian government on the substantial UN Agenda for Women's Rights, since the milestone represented by UN Security Council Resolution 1325 of 2000 on women, peace, security, supported and encouraged by this institution. The Institute spared no effort and structure to make valuable contribution to the dissemination and the correct interpretation of the United Nations directives. The document that is present today outlines the conclusion and the recommendation made by the experts who took part as appreciated speakers and participants in the different panel and study groups, whose names and position held are found in it. I am also pleased to inform that our institute, which wish to emphasize in a special way the happy anniversary of this year for the United Nations Organization, namely the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, lending us to the 80th anniversary in the year 2028. Plans, among other initiatives, to organize next October a multilateral conference on a theme similar to that under discussion, the role of women in the armed force and in public security in the diplomatic mediation of conflicts, still involving the resource of those countries that did not want to miss their effective contribution in the past edition. Last, but not last, since the Agenda ED 2028 on human rights has begun, the Istituto Diplomatico Internazionale is already grateful to those who would like to contribute with their suggestion and contribution. While I gave the floor to Mrs. Patrizia to illustrate in more detail the document that we present today, I renew to all of you my most dedicated strokes of deep and sincere gratitude.
Thank you very much, Mr. Giordani, for this address to our guests who are arriving also in the meeting room. Apparently today there has been some problem with badges. According to many meetings at the same time, they have told us that here at the United Nations office in Geneva there is a 5 week and a half very busy. I am very pleased to be here and to have at my left also Dr. Chiara Ilamala Ferrero, who has been one of our speakers at the conference last October. We will have the time to hear her when we will open the floor to the debate. If you wanted to address some greetings just for your arrival, it's fine. Otherwise, we will continue. Okay, we will move on and we will go ahead. Now we are going to have an overview of the conference held last October in Rome, al Palazzo della Cancelleria, in this magic setting of this property from the Vatican. I beg you to hear also the voice of Noah, who is on the background.
Accolgo con vivo interesse questa iniziativa volta ad intraprendere un maggiore approfondimento sul ruolo delle donne nell'intermediazione diplomatica dei conflitti.
Il punto di vista delle donne è importante proprio perché su un punto di vista particolare, specifico, autonomo, portatore di una sensibilità di genere decisiva nella costruzione del discorso sulla pace.
In tutti questi conflitti, pur riconoscendo le donne come vittime principali di abusi, di violenza, di soprusi, altrettanto si ha sempre di più l'evidenza di come le donne possono essere davvero quell'energia resiliente, capace di ricostruire invece un volto di un'umanità che sia più coesa, più giusta, più vera, più autentica.
La pace, le acquisizioni, i diritti non sono mai un traguardo che dobbiamo dare per acquisito o per scontato e possono essere rimesse in discussione in qualunque momento.
Il ruolo delle donne nei processi di pace, il ruolo delle donne è essenziale, è fondamentale, lo vediamo tutti i giorni, purtroppo se ne parla ancora troppo poco, così come dell'importanza delle donne nella storia, nell'evoluzione della nostra cultura, della nostra società.
In riferimento alle donne, pertanto, è proprio la storia dell'umanità che ci fa cogliere la loro peculiare attitudine a saper mediare con sapienti e pazienti attese, gentilezza di tratto, fermezza di decisione e inaspettata energia. Dico il vero allora, che se le donne in tal modo sono costruttrici di speranza, è di essa il mondo, soprattutto oggi, ne ha immenso bisogno.
And that is the position of women.
Sono le donne.
Le femmes?
Tutte le donne.
Individual women.
Rivolti alle donne.
Le femmes.
Per promuovere l'emancipazione della donna.
The power of women.
Non si parla più
della donna.
More and more women.
On the role of woman.
Una donna.
Le femmes.
Per le donne.
History of the role of women.
Tutte le donne.
Woman in the world.
Before you close the curtain, there's still another game to play, and life is beautiful that way. La, na, 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 na,
Grazie.
Riprendiamo adesso la nostra riunione, il nostro incontro volto a condividere le conclusioni e le raccomandazioni della conferenza di ottobre, svoltasi ad ottobre del 2022, con un coacervo di esperti e di rappresentanza di paesi veramente notevole, che ha dato luogo appunto all'elaborazione di questo documento finale che vuole essere portatore di un messaggio agli stati e ai governi sorry, I was speaking in Italian. Fortunately enough, they told me. I'm so sorry, and there is no interpreters in the room. I beg your pardon. It has been my emotion that made me a trick. I was telling we now continue with our meeting to promote the diffusion of these conclusions and recommendations elaborated by the speakers and the guests and the government representative of several countries present at the conference in October 2022. The conclusions and recommendations want to be a proposal for the states, for the UNOG, for the Commission on the Status of Women, to continue on the path of this international agenda, which is called Women, Peace and Security. We need to do a long way to arrive to equality in our countries. Today is the International Day of Women, and we would like to celebrate not only the women, but as Professor Curti Gialdino remembered, also promote a day for the men. Because it is important that we all are on the same boat and on the same flight and on the same wavelength to really promote, first of all, the human rights, second of all, of course, the equality among people and among people in a professional or in a personal setting. We have several countries who have presented their own view. We have had Kosovo, Albania, Republic Democratic of Congo, Pakistan. We have had the speakers from Senegal, from communities, very important communities, the religious Islamic community of Italy, the Jewish community, the Jewish Italian community, and many personalities from the embassies present in Rome, international organizations, and from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, which, as I said before, for those who join us in this moment, the meeting, have contributed and gave their patronage to the conference. Today, the conclusion and the recommendation, and now I think we can start with the presentation. We want to share this conclusion and this recommendation in order to promote the debate among other sister non-governmental organization also accredited here at the United Nations in Geneva, and we would like to enlarge the debate also with the representative of the diplomatic representation of the countries present in Geneva. The conclusion and the recommendation we are going to show you in the presentation were agreed upon by participants at the International Multicultural Conference, the role of women in the diplomatic mediation of conflict, as I said before, for those who join us now, organized by IDI, Istituto Diplomatico Internazionale, which in English is International Diplomatic Institute, with the contribution and patronage of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The conference was aimed at realizing initiatives for the implementation of the fourth plan, National Plan 2020-2024, adopted by the Italian Republic in accordance with the resolution already mentioned by the President of IDI before. As I told, we had representative from Albania, Democratic Republic of Congo, Ethiopia, Guinea-Conakry, Israel, Italy, Kosovo, Pakistan, Peru, which I had forgotten before, Senegal, Syria, South Sudan, and the United States of America. Among the civil society organizations who have presented their view and their message to the conference, the UCIE, Union of Jewish Community in Italy, Coreis, Islamic Religious Community of Italy, the Blue Marist of Aleppo, Syria, in Syria, represented by FMSI, which is the foundation of Marist Solidarity International, the country office in Lebanon of International Medical Corps, which is an organization seated in USA, the IPA, International Police Association of Albania, the South Sudan chapter of Solidarity with South Sudan, and Women in Public Service Albania, and Women with Impact Kosovo. We started from the presentation of country data sheets. The research has been done by the International Diplomatic Institute with the support of young students in diplomacy and in legal studies who were having their internship at IDE last year. And this graphic behind my shoulders is giving you an overview of how the women current status, where do we stand on the women participation to social life. And we can see that countries as Guinea-Conakry, as Senegal, as Ethiopia or the Democratic Republic of Congo, women in diplomacy are very few. While in other sectors they outnumber these data. It is interesting to see it because normally women, as also the president of IDE affirmed in his discourse at the conference, and you will find it published on our website. He told that since very ancient times, and that is also why there is this picture you have seen at the beginning of the presentation, women have been always mediator, have been always the ones who have cared after their families to bring peace at home. And they continue still to do it in the years 2000 and in the 22nd century. That is why we need more women, and we want, according to the United Nations resolutions on women, peace and security, and according to the Italian plan, of course, with the same title, we need really to have more women in the mediation of conflicts, because women bring that kindness, that vision, and as several of our female speakers in the conference said, are people who bring life. Bringing life, having children, makes that the women care more also for the peace, also with men and with the young boys. Of course, in all this, as other speakers, for example, the representative of Peru or from Albania, Kosovo, and others, and also from the religious community present at our conference, highlighted also that without the support and without the contribution of men, this advancement of women, either in mediation, either in the leadership roles, cannot be done. It has to be done, a work together in order to advance our society. I think we can go ahead with the next slide. And the conference was organized to raise an awareness and involve women, young people, and the public at large on these important and global points of the Women, Peace and Security Agenda. The conference developed around 3 panels and a working group session. The first panel was gender equality, empowerment and protection of women and children in conflict and post-conflict areas. In this sense, it was very interesting to hear the testimony of the solidarity with Sudan, bringing us also all the horrible things which are happening, which were of course sustained and supported also by other countries. Second panel, the role of women in civil society to advance the agenda on women, peace and security, example of excellence. I think that our speakers, the speakers who were at our conference, represent already the excellence in their field, and we have been delighted to hear them, but also very much interested to see what they have brought on our table, on the plate. Let's tell these on the plate as argumentations and as testimony of what is happening in their own countries. The third panel was around the formal and informal diplomacy at the international level, the positioning of professional women in the statistics of target countries, and action to be taken. After the 2 panels, the third panel was focused also on personal professional experiences from the speakers, and it brought also to bloom those conclusions and recommendations that have been elaborated then in the working group session, who was developed by working group session, to elaborate the conclusion and the recommendation aimed really at setting a stake in order to go ahead and do initiatives together and do initiatives that are really meaningful for the advancement of this agenda. In this stimulating environment of cross-cultural and multidisciplinary exchange, the interventions highlighted 3 main areas. Transversal to the themes of the 3 panels, which are really important to view today, because they can inspire you to have during the debate to propose also other initiatives that with which we can complete this conclusion and recommendation, but to make a real plan of action to perform together if possible. The first main area, transversal to the 3 panels, was gender-based violence, feminicide, the sexual exploitation and rape cases which are exponentially increasing around the world, targeting in particular women and girls, also used as a weapon during wars, but unfortunately occurring also in normal times, in times of peace, in the so-called developed countries. The second main area was the conspicuous gap between the international law and regulations in force, the national legislative systems which almost in each country have been updated, including policy aimed at empowering and protecting women and children, and their respective application, because as some speaker highlighted, there is a gap. This gap is between the international treaties, international convention, etc., and our own, in our countries, our own national legislation system, which do not arrive to enforce and to be adequate to produce a change in mentalities and behaviors at short and medium term. I can add that if it is true that a change in a society can take 1, 2, even 3 generations, we have arrived in the 22nd century and we should have developed also skills in order to overcome this kind of gap. It's true that our countries are very, very implicated and very involved in what it is happening day by day, but we should look forward to the future. The third main area, transversal to the 3 panels we mentioned before, is the role of the education at family and institutional level to promote the respect, the inclusion and empowerment of women and girls to be seen as an enriching component in any team and not as a competition. Again, women entering a man's world have not to be seen as a competition, but we have to work together. That was the aim and the message from this conference. Next slide, please. The conclusion were agreed on shared exceptional values and universal values. Some of the phrases said during the conference were captured in this slide. The change shall be made from women for the women, with men playing the role of allies in the necessary change management. Civil society with the same intentions is a great strength that politics needs. The best results are achieved together. We have to say that since the resolution number 1325 of 2000 of the United Nations Security Council, there has been a shift of focus of outstanding universal value by placing women at the center of the peace and security agenda, but underscored that the whole range of values, including local values, intangible and spiritual values, should be fully understood, respected and taken into account when developing initiatives to further increase the participation of women in the diplomatic mediation of conflicts, where the education since the childhood plays a fundamental role in diffusing the concept of gender equality and the respect for diversity and of cultural diversity, which is the common heritage of humanity as the Universal Declaration of Cultural Diversity states. Next slide, please. The recommendation continues with the recommendation to enhance the concept and roles of communities as circuits that generate reference places or supply and response to both elementary and relational needs in a civil context, since they are capable, due to their capillarity and subsidiary function, to contribute to the achievement of objectives assigned to government bodies. Recognize the existing frameworks such as the intergovernmental system, the legal systems of each state and the responsibility of states, and acknowledge the existence of mechanisms for the empowerment and protection of women and children promoted by treaties, conventions, and by international and national laws, both in times of conflicts and in times of peace. Recommend that the gap between the status of legislation at the national and international level and its application in the social and economic sectors be reduced at short and medium term and until it would disappear on the long term. Recommend to states, and these are a recommendation on education and formation, training, as you want to call it, recommend to states that the articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights be displayed on the walls of each schoolroom at all levels of compulsory education institutions up to university. In particular, Article 1, with the occasion of the 75th and 80th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Article 1, I would like to remember to all who are connected with us and the present and all the present in this meeting room at the UNOG, United Nations Office in Geneva. Article 1 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights recites, "All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights." That should be at the basis of our relationships, human relationships. Recommend to states to introduce emotional intelligence and into study programs at every level so that the younger generations acquire skills to contain and discipline their anger, to transform it into civil communications, and are educated in a proactive citizenship. Recommendations on the need for capacity building and strengthening. Increase the understanding of the significance of human knowledge as capital and as a basis for sustainable development founded on the respect of the other. I found that, and we all found that this word respect is gone or underestimated, where we do not intend respect to be given because of a person in a position of superiority or whatever, be it financial, of professional or whatever, but respect for the human being only because we pertain to one human race, human being race, that's it. Develop capacity exchange as essential addition to capacity building to empower women and girls around the world. Strengthen capacity building and capacity exchange as a continuing process based on trust and enduring relationships that require a long-term commitment both at institutional and individual level in order to create a change in mentalities and in behaviors of women, men, and children with respect to gender equality and empowerment and protection of women and children, which are the most affected categories in times of conflict. Perform capacity building and capacity exchange as a continuous dialogue between all stakeholders, be them men or women, that should focus on the development of skills and also on awareness raising on gender equality. Capacity building and capacity exchange should be flexible enough to encompass the diversity of management systems and develop the expertise of stakeholders in technical skills, as well as in other essential skills, such as managerial skills, in order that the inclusion and participation of women and girls in leadership roles at all levels of civil society be seen as an enrichment for the contribution to common good and not as a competition. Next slide, please. Recommendation of international cooperation. Speakers were from 14 different countries, and it has been really a pleasure for me to hear them, to convene on this recommendation in order to work together in an efficient way, and also because it is important to produce expected results, which at the end of the day are what interests. to create a positive impact on the lives and on the people who are benefiting from international cooperation interventions. The participants recognize that the multilateral and interdisciplinary approach promoted by the International Conference, the role of women in the diplomatic mediation of conflicts, can lead to new opportunities to promote the increase of women and girls in the diplomatic and mediation studies, and emphasize the need for states and civil society organizations to cooperate with each other to achieve these, as well as for international organizations to mainstream their efforts in the promotion of professional women networks and women in diplomatic mediation networks. Propose that a similar conference be held in Senegal, where a delegation of the International Diplomatic Institute is present, where ED Senegal would act as a leading partner for the government and national organizations, so that the extent of this conference, of the conference of October 2022, reaches also other nearby countries in Africa. Proposed to hold a conference on the role of women in the military and in the law enforcement for the mediation of conflict, already mentioned by the president of the International Diplomatic Institute, in Albania, organized by the International Police Association in partnership with the International Diplomatic Institute, where the participation should be extended to the participants of the present conference and to the whole Balkans, to be organized between a date this year from now till September. Next slide, please. Commit to present joint statements and recommendations to the UN Commission on the Status of Women, ideally meeting in New York on 8 March 2023, instead of being at the New York United Nations office. We are here at UNOG today, which has been easiest to achieve, and to host, under the coordination of the ED, a parallel event on the next session about women in diplomatic mediation. Commit to create together a course on education for peace of interreligious and universal values and application, to be taught initially in 11 countries represented at the conference. Commit to create the ED Commission of Women's Rights in Rome, with the mandate to participate transversally in the international forums, to advocate for the rights of women and girls, and to further to go ahead with the Women, Peace and Security and promote the Women, Peace and Security agenda. Commit to promulgate and publicize this agreed approach. We have now finished with our presentation. We hope that you have recognized your countries, yourselves, in all what we have said. And now I give the floor to Ms. Chiara Ilamala Ferrero to make the first intervention of this day.
Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to thank ED, Istituto Diplomatico Internazionale, the President Giordani, and Dr. Patrizia Coppola for this occasion, and also for organizing the conference in Rome that, as you just know, today is the presentation of the report of the conference. And the report covers a wide range of themes that reflect the variety of speakers and their background. The goal is to implement the National Action Plan in accordance with the UN Council resolution about women, peace and security. This resolution has been approved 23 years ago with a different global scenario. In these years, women have increased their participation in peace building and peacekeeping, but conflicts are still going on. And of course, a lot of work is still needed. For many decades, the wrong idea that religions were at the origin of conflicts was largely widespread. As religious Muslims, we were committed to overcome this idea by showing that religious exclusivism was the cause, not religions themselves. Now the scenario has changed and the motivation of conflicts have become even more illogical. Religious representatives from many religions are involved, of course even women, are involved by institutions in consultations that aim at finding solutions. The rise of new nationalism and sovereignism risks to conduct us backward. In 2016, the UN Declaration on the Right to Peace has provided for the first time a positive definition of peace that goes beyond the absence of conflict. Nowadays, we need a positive definition of the role of women that goes beyond violence and gender gap, which exist and should be faced. In this way, our work could be more effective in every field. Our work, of course, as also women. A culture of peace needs the promotion of and the respect of religious diversity and intercultural dialogue. I hope, as a Muslim Western woman, that institutions can raise awareness about the positive contribution of religions in secular societies, with concrete actions that protect inner pluralism and doctrinal differences as a richness for our future. This is, I think, a first step also to give a peace a new shape that is a peace even in our Western society. It's not only peace that we would like to have in a region in which there are conflicts. So we need also a new way to debate, a new way of mediation between men and women. I think that this is also a task that women can achieve with patience and also moderation. So thank you very much for this occasion to share these values and also the vision that could be different, but of course it's a first step to go deep in this theme about women in diplomatic mediation in conflicts. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chiara Ilamala Ferrero. Your contribution has been very, very important, and both in the conference and today, because I think that at the basis of our peaceful living in our own also small community, it is the importance of a common understanding, common values, and the respect of the values of others who also in the social and civil life cannot think as ourselves. And I think that this will be, it is a very important value. And also what you highlighted during, I remember very well what you highlighted during the conference, that to take into account, into consideration, the values of the people in the countries where they live when one has to make an intervention. And they are informing me, thank you very much, they are informing me that Mr. Lobasso, the Ministry Plenipotentiary, is online, so I would like to give the floor to him. if it is possible. Otherwise, I will pass the floor to Mrs. Makbule Schroeder, who is also in line for an intervention. When I look on my right side, it is because I'm looking at the technician, our colleague Elidia Kuki, who is helping us with all the connections. Thank you.
Patricia?
Yes?
Can you
Hello,
hear
good
me?
afternoon. Yes,
Good
we hear you.
afternoon to all of you.
Welcome in Geneva, welcome at the United Nations office in Geneva, also if you are connected from your country.
Thank you very much. I do apologize. I had some difficulties, technical difficulties to connect, but now I think it's fine. It's working fine. And I really appreciate the work that you did and we did all together last October in Italy. And also I appreciate the recommendation that we worked all together to see them and to listen to them and to hope that they will really not be staying only on paper, but they will be implemented in the future. I mean, we will do, to be honest, I didn't have like any intervention. I missed the first part. I was very much interested to see if the mental health is in the recommendations to be as an obligatory help to be provided for people that actually come out of the conflicts. And because I'm talking from our experience in our country, as you know, and I've seen that it's not enough to provide only like clothes and medicine and everything that we provide as people to each other after those conflicts, but it is very important to make it as mandatory to be provided not only to people that come out of conflicts, of course, to everybody, but since we have these emergencies in the different countries, I think that we should like concentrate on that. I apologize if you mention it and I didn't hear it because of the problems that I had. So if so, just interrupt me, feel free to say you mention it, but if not, I will carry on just few more, maybe a minute or more, because I want to leave time for others as well to connect and to give their input. Yes,
sorry, I want to reply to your question. The mental health issue that you raised remained as your proposal to make it mandatory and to propose that also the United Nations and all other humanitarian organizations can provide mental health for those in distress in time of conflicts or in another settings, could not be included fully in the final conclusion because we have to bring further this instance to our own countries. In the sense, we have all together as a group who has written the recommendations and the conclusions, we have at the national level to bring these to the knowledge of our own governments and bring it inside in order that it can be taken into account in the next step of this agenda. I think that you have set up a first step. And I think that the suggestion from the conference will be considered and taken into consideration. The only thing is that as a conclusion of the conference could not be committing the government of the countries participating in the conference, but we will stay in touch with all of you, with all the speakers. In any case, we will have to create this Commission of Women's Rights of the ED, and we will study all the diplomatic procedure in order to bring this at another level. So it has been taken into consideration, but we could not include fully. But it is a proposal and it is there. And it is now in the hands of the public. You're welcome.
I appreciate your reply, and I understand the reasoning and everything you explained. And if I can be allowed just maybe few more seconds, I won't take very long.
Yes, please.
As we all understand the seriousness of my proposition is that, as I said, we should always aim to prevent before anything bad happens actually. So that's seeing in my country for 20 more years after the war, and you know what happened to our country, and seeing the problems that now we face, you know, we see that it would be probably very helpful if at that time we would have that as well. So I appreciate your contribution, Patricia, and also the contribution of the panel. And I hope that people that are also attending this conference now, they will join me and join our forces together to work and to work as hard as we can and to never stop, but really to try to make it, as I see it, it's a very, very important component. Thank you very much, Patricia. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. It is an important point. It is an important step, and it will be discussed further in the next meetings that we will have internally in order to see how to bring ahead this important point. I am asking if there is the Ministry Lobasso in online.
Yes, I'm here.
Good afternoon. Finally, we see you.
Yes, I'm so sorry. You know, just we had some technical problems, but I'm here. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. You have heard the conclusions and recommendations. You have heard Mrs. Chiara Lai Lamferrero from the COREIS, the religious community of Islamic community of Italy. You have heard Makbule Shkroda from Kosovo, who has raised this important point. I think that you have perhaps you have had the time to look into what the conference did, and to the intervention also of the Ambassador Ferrero from the DG of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, your colleague. Now we are here to hear you, to listen to you.
That's very kind. That's very kind of you. Thank you.
So I leave you the floor. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And again, sorry for this little disconnection. First of all, thank you for this invitation, because it's among the invitation concerning international relations and Africa and intercultural diplomacy and soft power, which are more or less, you know, just the main domains in which I try to deal with. I have to say that this one of women in diplomacy, women in international relationship, is the one that I prefer the most, probably because, and really believe me when I say it, I always believed that in a sort of superiority, from a point of view of a quantity and a quality of the human being as a woman, you know, in respect of men. So I think that in the future we will have, you know, a lot of rehearsals and a lot of proofs about, you know, just what I'm saying. First of all, I can tell you that 1 week ago I participated to a round table on Africa and the role of women, and I can tell you that I was very, very touched by an intervention of a professor from Sorbonne that remind us that there are some important theories on women in Africa, that they come back to the Isis and Osiris myths, in which you have Isis like the eye and Osiris like the throne. And the best part is that the eye is the king and the throne is the queen. And the eye of the throne, that means that doesn't exist any king without the queen. And so it gives a primary importance to the role of woman. And in fact, the majority of matriarchal lines in Africa, they stuck on this theory and on this importance of women into the preservation of the society, on synthesis and the evolution of the society. Let me be, really excuse me if for just a couple of minutes, let me be a little bit institutional, and as I represent also the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on this. And I can tell you that really with my colleagues, we often think about the risk of plunging into barbarism and absolute disregard for the most basic human rights today is more real than ever, and in Africa as in Middle East, in Afghanistan, and it concerns especially vulnerable people, and among them, you know, just youth, children, elders, and women. It's a fact that the egalitarian participation of women in peace processes is a primary urgency that concerns the whole of society. I have experienced directly, for example, in some courses in Harvard, how much the negotiating and mediating force of women can be absolutely unethical and it gives an added value to any kind of controversy and any kind of dispute. You can imagine so at international level. Despite the fact that 22 years have passed since the UN resolution 1325 of 2000, there are still many steps to take. It's a fact. We have to admit we have done a lot, but a lot, you know, just is still to do. And to ensure for women's full participation in decision-making processes related to peacekeeping, prevention, and mediation operation. I still remember in Gran Canaria some months ago, I was for a Sahel anti-terrorism meeting, and I remember really this kind of advice that some splendid women in the panel gave to the international community. They say, we are here to help, but we cannot accept that we as women, we receive some already full-fledged and packed program on de-radicalization on women and on people, on local people from outside, from foreigner countries, without our inclusions from the very first step of the conceiving of the plan. So it was a sort of export that it simply doesn't work, because in that case, women cannot be only the executor of programs decided abroad. The implementation of women peace and security agenda remains in Italy, and I can assure you, a top priority. Probably you have heard also a lot of time Prime Minister Meloni repeating in every international occasion. And recently, as Minister Tajani has recalled just yesterday, to this end, the fourth Italian national plan for the period 2024 was approved in 2020, and the Italian Parliament allocated 3 million euro for the same period to support the implementation of the plan. And this is also something we have to underline, because we have to lose also this horrible defect of, understatement in what of successful we do, and on the contrary, we ought to show off in order to create, just more stamina for our interlocutors. For this reason, we have been staunch supporters of Resolution 2382 of 2017, which promotes the role of women in peacekeeping missions, calling it indispensable. And we have always supported and encouraged a greater female presence within these missions. As I told you, much has been achieved in recent decades, but clearly remains a lot of work to do. Several studies have shown the positive correlation between women's substantial participation in peace processes and the likelihood of reaching an agreement because of creativity, because of resilience, because of patience, because of the sense of synthesis, because of the sense of getting the whole situation, the whole scenario, and not only the details, because of the chromosomical way of this particular part of human being to get more of a situation and to reach better results. This is because women are to build strong relationship, I would say also intercultural relationship, empathetic relationship, based on responsive listening, much more than others, and especially with those who are most vulnerable and exposed to the risk of violence during conflicts. Here, it's a matter of being there with all your forces, physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental. And this capability is only for few, and those fews are mainly women. No network and all networks, they respond to the need to promote women's participation in peace processes, mediation efforts, and peace building in a region, for example, like the African one, that is crucial for global stability and brings together, just a group of qualified women mediators for 21 countries on all sides of the Mediterranean region and even downward. In the end, I would tell you that I can highlight at least 6 very briefly, way of action and priority, operational priority from the institutions concerning, just this exercise that we have in order to promote the role of women in international relations. First of all, we have to fight the gender violence and promote right of women, especially children, very young, youth, and including in every kind of humanitarian development program. This is like a sort of mantra that we have to repeat every time that we conceive a new program. Second, to sustain the economic empowerment. When I was ambassador to Sudan for 4.5 years, 2015, 2019, I can tell you that the best programs that I have implemented was the empowerment of micro enterprises for women all across the Nile, working on fisheries, working on agriculture, working on cleaning water, making cheese. And I have to say that the real pleasure in seeing how much this economic empowerment was beneficial and was benefiting the inter and intracommunitarian relationship, just on the two sides of the river. Third, we have to analyze the impact of gender politics and food security. Agriculture development and climate change. Fortunately, scientists, researchers all over the world, they have understood the importance of this multi-dimensional approach to the issue. And the majority of them, again, are women, because multidimensionality, it's something chromosomical inside women more than other human beings. Strengthened intervention for the promotion of health. It's a transversal issue, in gender, and we have to improve the quantity and the quality of the intervention in order to strengthen and to improve sexual and general level of health and reproduction. I just would like to mention that, again, when I was in Sudan, I still remember a splendid work made together with UNFPA against fistula problems in women in remote
areas,
villages, and I still remember the joy of every kind of accomplishment that we had by promoting this incredible program. Supporting access of women to education. This is really barbarian. And allow me to say, I'm a moderate person, but I have to use this. It's barbaric not allowing women to education. Also because I can assure you, because I've studied on that, I have a PhD on that. This is not what the Quran says. This is not what the Sunnah says. This is not what interpretations, perverted interpretation of Sunnah and Quran says. This is not, absolutely. On the contrary, there is peace, there is gender equality, there is a sort of interpretation that has to be contextualized to the world today, but for sure not being constrained to very malicious interpretation that tend to diminish the role of women. And in the end, we have to strengthen our efforts for gender equality, especially as far as the humanitarian aid and fragile contexts are concerned. We cannot think about, for example, look at the last wars in Africa, civil wars in Africa. We cannot think about humanitarian aid without peculiarities and new ideas on how to separate kind of intervention in order to give favor to vulnerable people, to women, because humanitarian aid cannot be equal, cannot be the same for all human beings. And you can see it into this kind of phenomenon. You can see it in difficulties. So it is something, again, that we have to introduce inside. I'm not pessimistic at all. On the contrary, I've seen a very good trend in a continent in Africa. Yes, pandemic has probably created a situation of slowing down the process. But I can tell you, for example, that women representation in the lower houses of African Parliament has risen from 9% in 2000 to 25% in 2020, a 16% point increase. It's not that much, but I have to say that in 20 years, that means that something has been done. And the quota in Parliament is becoming more and more a mandatory rule when we do a lot of electoral training for the Commission in Africa, and in order to remember the electoral right. So my vision is a positive vision. As a deputy director for Africa, every day I can see the situation is in a big and fast evolution, not because only of our efforts, but most of all because I think that it is inevitable. It's simply inevitable. We are just late on our timetable about gender balance, about all possibilities for women. It's just a question of time. It's not a question of if. And this is not only my wish, but it's my prayer, it's my belief, it's my creed, very, very strong on the basis of scientific facts. Thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you to you, Mr. Lobasso, potentially ministry from the DGMO Africa, who have joined us and given us this global vision about the participation of women in the African countries. It has been very interesting to have your view and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation on view on what it is being doing and how much road still we have to parkour to do to really have those results that you were speaking at the very beginning of your speech. Thank you so much to have joined us, and we hope to continue with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation this path that we have started last year.
Count on us. Count on us.
Thank you so much. We are now giving the floor to Dr. Arianna Briganti. Sorry, because I had some disconnection in my microphone. Dr. Arianna Briganti from the foundation, Novo Foundation, who will give us her vision and her, can you open your microphone, please? The vision from another part of the world. And we are here to welcome you and to thank you for your kind contribution to this conference and forum.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I hope you can hear me well, also the one connected. I gather there were some technological problems. And I hope the technology helps us, at least in this final phase of our discussion. Pleasure to be here, and thank you very much to IDI for the invitation. It's also beautiful to see that there is a number of people, Italian, but obviously international individuals and organizations that, I look at the young generation here, clearly, speaking for diversity. So thank you for being here, and thank you for helping everyone to understand how to bring the role of women more prominently to the fore when it comes to mediation and negotiation. So I'm in representation of the NGO Nove. It's an Italian NGO, which I founded and I co-chair since 2012, after I came back from Afghanistan. So the organization is in Rome, with an office in Rome, but also in Kabul, and has been, as I said, active in Afghanistan in the field for more than 10 years. Nevertheless, what I want to stress is the vast experience that the members of the board of Nove have when it comes to Afghanistan, because we have more than 25 years of field work there. So we have really seen plenty of different situations, political, social, economic situation, and we've never been so disappointed, and even I would say it's not lack of hope. I think hope is always there, and that's why we're still working, and we're still here today to speak about Afghanistan. And in this way also, I would say on behalf of some Afghan women, I don't like to speak on behalf of others. I think we're all very well empowered to speak for ourselves. But in this very case, Afghan women are refrain from speaking, and they're really limited in their ability to be, I would say, very normal human beings. I heard about barbaric acts. The former speaker was pretty eloquent about, I would say, also his anger of seeing what we are seeing today in Afghanistan and elsewhere. And in order to give you an understanding of where we are, allow me to sum up some of the more prominent and I would say very indicative data. I'm sure that you're familiar with that, but I think it's important to reiterate where we are at the moment. Almost 29 million people are in need of urgent humanitarian assistance. According to WFP, which is one of Nove partners in Afghanistan, nearly 20 million people are acutely food insecure. 4 million people are acutely malnourished. This includes more than 3 million children under the age of 5. 84%, and this is very interesting and very sad, female-headed households are unable to consume sufficient food because of the restrictions. 84%. According to MSF, 88% of Afghan people are either delayed, suspended, or decided not to seek medical care, mostly because of what is happening and the restriction of the Taliban and material poverty right now. As a matter of fact, in 2022, Afghanistan had one of the highest maternal mortality rates in the world. Again, barbaric is, what I keep saying, my mind keep being stuck with that terminology that the former panelist mentioned. Finally, Afghanistan is the only country in the world where girls and women are forbidden to go to school. Secondary education and university, it's forbidden by law, by the de facto government law. And it seems that we are tolerating that because we're still debating about that. But this is still happening as we speak. So in terms of Nove engagement with the Women, Peace and Security agenda, how do we deal with that? Our engagement is twofold. It's tackling economic and human security because of what is happening, and it's also discussing at political level. And again, not because we want to discuss on behalf of somebody else, but because we can, as an international person, as an international individual in Afghanistan, I am still allowed to speak to the de facto government. Many of my Afghan colleagues are not, because there was a recent ban on the NGO workers, female workers, that are forbidden to work for national and international civil society organizations. And this is so important to stress the whys we are here, the reasons why we're here, the reasons why I'm speaking on behalf of an Afghan woman right now, and it's not, it's not an Afghan woman here seated today. So the long list of this data that I just show you, that I just mentioned to you, portrays an unsavory reality, and this unsavory reality comes from the consequence of many political failures, right? Do you remember the peace talk, so-called peace talk between the US and Afghanistan in Doha? So women were completely absent from the process. So we were talking about a new Afghanistan, they were talking about women's rights, they were talking about human rights, but women were not there. And this is why we've all failed. And this is why now we have the situation. And this is why now I'm talking about the situation, right? So the continued exclusion of women from peace processes leads to diplomatic catastrophe. We can't talk about diplomacy anymore. It's just human catastrophe. Okay, and that's why we need to understand that women need to be included at the very beginning of peace processes. And that's why Nove is still there, and is still with one hand trying to support the local population, empowering women with schemes of entrepreneurships and job creation for women. We're still working on that. Education, we spoke about education quite a lot. I would like to stress the fact that we need to invest more in digital education, okay, especially because we can't reach people as we used to do, like in a classroom, especially women, because as we said, we are forbidden. So let's please look at what is happening now at the UN in New York. The 67 Commission on the Status of Women has among their priority to strengthen innovation and technological change. And for that, we need an army of people that are, technology-wise. So this is very important. And then, as I said, vocational training and soft and hard skill in order that people can really think of a brighter future, so that we don't fall into despair, that there is hope for humanity, there is hope for everyone, not only for 50% of the society, right? And the second level, as I said, is the political dimension. And why is the political dimension? We are a non-governmental organization, so we're not supposed to be political, and as a matter of fact, we are not. But we are the only one that can speak now with the de facto government, so we are now mediating. And NOVA has a chairperson who is a woman and a deputy chairperson, myself, who's another woman. So we really represent women in mediation. But I want to see women from Iraq, women from Iran, women from Afghanistan, women from Myanmar, women from Latin America, from Ukraine. I want to see everyone all together at the same table discussing mediation and negotiation at the same level as men. So this is what we do in a nutshell. And I would like to stress an idea that I developed this morning while I was traveling here. And I read in the news that the EU sanctioned 9 individuals and 3 entities due to human rights violation, particularly sexual and gender-based violence. And 2 are Talibans. Right. So the instrument, the legal framework around which this sanction happened is the Global Human Rights Sanction Regime. OK, it was established in 2020, but apparently the EU is using only now this instrument to sanction those who actually violated human rights, especially gender-based violence, rights against women. So I wonder whether a platform like this one can be used as an advocacy platform to make sure that more sanctions are really put forward and this gender appetite is stopped. Thank you so much for the time, and thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Briganti, for your intervention and the testimony of a country which is undergoing a real change for the worst. We could try to say. And I think that your proposal to bring forward and make advocacy on certain topics will be important to examine all together in order we can see what kind of action lead in order to bring forward what you have called this gender appetite, which I appreciated a lot because in a gentle way tells what it is really in every country of the world, unfortunately. Of course, unfortunately, but what it really is. And we have to think also for the young generation present that also Italy, as a country of among the most developed countries in the world, has a very big problem with the femicides. So from the family, where the people have to be really fostered, the fight comes from there to women. The fights to women comes from there. So we will take into account what Dr. Briganti has said as a conference. I mean, not only as a ED, and we will examine what we can do together to bring this forward. I give now the floor to the representative of Guinea, who has been a speaker at our conference, Mrs. Aisha Nanette Conté, who is also a minister. And I leave the floor, if the connection works, please, because I would like to have then a quarter of an hour to offer to our guests present here in order, if they have some question or if they want to bring forward an instance, you can also speak. We can start from you if you would like to take the floor and express your ideas or your thoughts about what we have presented today. Are you from schools, from other ONGs? May I ask?
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Olive Kinga. I'm from the University of Geneva, and I'm doing my master's in European International Governance. And I am from the United States, Dallas, Texas. And regarding to the topic that has been discussed, I was actually made aware of it only yesterday. So I took the initiative to attend because I was born in Cameroon, in the English-speaking region, and currently right now we have the Anglophone crisis between French and English-speaking region. And regarding what has been said about women and also the marginalization of the voices, especially in mediating, finding solution to move forward, I thought, how also can I contribute? So that's what also led me to come here, because I thought the topic of women in diplomatic mediation makes a lot of sense to begin, and also to gauge also the work you're doing and to learn. And the presentation was quite informative. And for me personally, I'm also in a learning process, so I cannot necessarily say I know this or I know that, but more or less I'm very grateful for the opportunity to also be able to listen to each of you and the presentation. So I don't have a question, more of appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you. It is very kind of you to have expressed your appreciation and also to tell us that you're studying and also that your country is undergoing some problems. We appreciate very much, and we really are keen to involve young people in order to bring forward all these themes that we have spoken about, because we think that it is important also being in a country so multicultural as Switzerland in this moment. There are of course other countries multicultural, but in Geneva there is like a special place where everybody is allowed to speak freely and to exchange ideas. I think that it is important to bring this forward, and to also to support you in your studies in bringing the knowledge of expert people who have and those who are working there. Now, if the Ministry of Guinea, no, we are waiting for the microphone. So other of you want to express your ideas or something? I don't know. Luca, I know because he is taking notes of this meeting for UNOG, for the United Nations office in Geneva, and I told him that we are delighted that you are taking notes, and this will be kept only for the NGO liaison unit and the UNOG in particular, in order to have countness about the meeting we held here as organization or non-governative organization of civil society organizations accredited with the consultative status here at the United Nations office. So thank you, Luca, for your work. Have you been inspired by the words you heard?
Yes, thank you to all the speakers. Yes, there's been some great speakers and some good points made, and I think my colleagues at NGO Liaison will be interested to see what's been said. In fact, I mean, in our office, the gender parity is very much strong in terms of women making up roles, so I think a lot of people will be very interested to see what's been said here today. And I'd just like to thank you all for what you said. Thank you.
Thank you so much to you. We are giving the floor now to the Minister Aisha Nanette Conté from the Guinea-Conakry.
Hello, everyone.
Yes.
I'm just going to correct the mistake. This is not the minister. My name is Diaka Kamara. I'm from Guinea, and I'm actually...
sorry.
It's okay.
Okay.
I'm actually the president of the Diaka Kamara Foundation for Education. So I'm an activist, and I work here in Guinea. I'm originally from here. And I do a lot of work in gender-based violence. And when we talk about the role of women, you know, in diplomatic mediation of conflict, I mean, research has shown that the inclusion of women in peace processes increases the likelihood of a sustainable peace agreement, because there are different roles that the woman can play. They can bring diverse perspective to the table. They can bring a unique perspective to the negotiation table that may not necessarily be represented by their male counterparts. They can provide insight into the impact of conflict, not only on women, children, but also other marginalized groups, and they can offer innovative solutions to very complex issues. And also, women are trust builders, so they often have a more collaborative and inclusive approach to conflict resolution. They can help build trust between conflicting parties by emphasizing the shared interest and goal of all involved parties. They also are good for advocating for gender-based, for gender-sensitive solutions, because in time of conflict, we know that there's a lot of violence happening, especially towards women. We talk about rape, we talk about abuse. So with women at the table, they can bring gender-sensitive solutions to be included in any agreement that will be reached, you know, which can include provision for women's rights, access to justice, and protection from gender-based violence. And they also support victims. They can provide support for victims of conflict, including survivors of gender-based violence. So for me, it's not even a question of the woman's place in the resolution of conflict. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Even here, we are actually in a transition. The president of the transition, the Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya, has put together a panel of mediators or peace talks facilitators, and it's actually headed by Dr. Makale, Madame Makale Traoré, who is well known in the country, a politician, but she has put aside the political mantle to really head the peace talks. And we have had a lot of progress in a very short amount of time compared to the 15 years, you know, from 2010 to the coup in last year. I mean, where no progress were done when it came to talks, you know, negotiation and all of that, but they have been doing a fantastic job. It's headed by her and two other ladies, and we see the changes, we see the progress being made. So it's very, very important that women have access, have a seat at the table and partake in conversation, because again, the first victim, I mean, when I listen to what all of the other panelists have said in the past, the first victims of war are always women, are mostly women and children. So that's all I wanted to add on my end.
Thank you so much. It has been very kind of you to make this intervention and give us the vision also on your side and from your perspective of Guinea. I'm so sorry to have mismatched your name, because we were expecting also the ministry, but I thank you so much for your intervention. And I would like to ask if the Vice President of IDI want to have the floor, or any other of you. Finally, we see you. We have seen you, Diaka Kamara. Thank you so much. Your wonderful smile that enlightens this room. And in a day where it is the International Women's Day.
Absolutely.
And here at UNOG, at the United Nations office in Geneva, is undergoing so much, so many meetings and so many decision making. If we do not have any other intervention, I would like just to ask. There is an intervention? Oh, wonderful. We wait for to listen to you. Tell us, sorry.
Hello, everyone. My name is Prabnoor, and I'm from India. And I'm currently studying bachelor's in international relations. And I feel like as I'm from India, I feel like India is a bit improving and women in politics. Like recently, we had our first a women president from the tribal population in India. Like India has never seen that before, and I agree with one of the online speakers. She said that if there are rape cases, we need women for that. And in India, there are a lot of rape cases, and I feel like women. I feel like women need to be there to make the laws for that. I feel like men should not be taking over something that women can do better. And I feel like I also agree that we should not see women as a competition. We should see them as a team. We should work together. As for me, everyone is equal. Everyone should be given the equal right. Why not women? We are good at many things. Why not politics? Yeah. I think that's all I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think you have highlighted something. Women involved in the legislative procedure of lawmaking, and this is another theme that we will take into consideration in order to develop initiatives and to go ahead with these women in mediation in conflict, but also women in the lawmaking. I think it is one important point. We thank you so much. If l'avvocato Paolo Giordani, President of the International Diplomatic Institute, is still online, okay? Is still online. I would like to ask him if he wants to make a statement, a final statement, while we hear the testimony of a young lady from Ukraine, Yarina, who is going to make an intervention online. She's in remote connection. We hear you. Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Yes.
Good day. Good day to everyone. And it's a really honor for me to be here and to share with you this very important day in which women celebrate, because I'm of the opinion that we should never stop talking about women, how much they have fought and continue to fight for their rights. So, but first of all, I would like to say thank you to all of you. My gratitude to Patricia Coppola, from all the students of Teseo School of International Relation, and also would like to say thank you to the Teseo Institute, International Diplomatic Institute, and President Stefano Amodi, Vice President Melina Allegro, for giving me this opportunity. So just I will take few minutes because it's really important for me to stay here and to give you my speech. So I'm Irina Piliuk and I'm from Ukraine, but I'm a student still of Institute for Linguistic Mediators Salerno, Institute Teseo. And unfortunately, I live this drama, okay, because you know what happens now in my country, in Ukraine. I live and work in Italy for 20 years already. And the drama where once again women, together with their children, turn out to be the first and major victims of the conflict. Unfortunately, that is true. So in this context of violence against women at all levels, International Women's Day becomes more meaningful than ever, I guess, because the values for which we must never let our guard down, but continue contending for full recognition of equal opportunities. You know that women of my country made this choice long ago, probably because there was no choice but conditions, which led to this harsh decision. Because the role of women in the diplomatic mediation of conflict, I deliberately repeat the topic just to emphasize the real rule that usually is not written on pages. So the rule is to be able to see the story behind the face, the tears behind the smile, the bitterness behind the straight. Give a change for happiness instead of pain. You know, the rule of women is to embrace the situation, to hug a bleeding soul and help to overcome the road no one chose for themselves. And the last, and then I finish, that despite all the challenges Ukrainian women face nowadays, there is one big important advantage. Ukrainian women have their choice. Using this priceless advantage, I would like absolutely to talk and to take opportunity to speak for all women of Iran, Syria, Afghanistan, because we stand together for the same values and we fight together for better future. And in addition, I would to extend my endless gratitude to you for dedicating your attention to this subject, and I appreciate your support and sincerely thank the organization of this event, which gave me opportunity to bring my testimony. So thank you and Slava Ukraini.
Thank you so much, Irina, and thank you to the Teseo University. Thank you from the young hopes of the future in the women peace and security plan, and all over the world, for the other ONG present, for the presence of Dottoressa Briganti of the ONG Nova, who has joined us today at the United Nations office in Geneva, from the Dr. and Mrs. Chiara Lai Ferrero from the COREIS, the Community of Islamic Religious Italian Community, for the presence of the Vice President of the Istituto Diplomatico Internazionale, Professor Carlo Curti Gialdino, for the delegate of IDI, Professor Roberta Lucchini, our colleague who have really supported us in a very difficult technical challenge today, Iliada Kuki, all the speakers who have joined us, like Makbule Shkroda, Diakra Kamera, Irina, and all the others who are here listening to us and looking at us from remotely from various countries. We thank you so much for this opportunity to share with you the conclusions and recommendations of the International Multicultural Conference, the role of women in the diplomatic mediation of conflicts, and we wait for your contribution for our next initiatives. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good night.